I am so glad you're here. Welcome to First Christian Church. We've got great sermons for you. We're going to have some teachings that you can follow along with and do on your own. If this is not your church, we would love to have you. Please come and join us. If you attend a church somewhere else and you're using this, I hope it's a great supplement for what you're learning. Take what you need, but continue going to your church. I want to thank you for showing up with us today. May God bless you with this sermon.
Many of you probably might have figured this out just from conversations with me, but I didn't play video games as a kid. And no, it's not because I grew up in an age where we didn't have video games, because we did. We had the Atari and we had the Nintendo, and then by the time I was in middle school, we had PS1, PlayStation, the OG. But I was the kid that played outside. I was that kid. Matter of fact, I was that kid who would go outside at recess, gather his friends together and go, okay, you're the evil sheriff of Nottingham, and you're Maid Marian, and I'm Robin Hood. And these rest, they'll be my little merry men, and we'll go save the day. That was me. I was that kid. I had to do everything that was good. I could never play a bad guy. You could not get me to be the evildoer. Couldn't do it. I had to be the good guy. That is until I got a little older in elementary school, when we still had recess, when it was not cool to play superheroes. Instead, you should be playing sports. So I got a little tired of getting beat up after school at the monkey bars and picked on and had food thrown at. And so I said, I'm going to go play the basketball sports. I gave up on what I thought was my core value of doing good because I was tired of the punishment I took it as. Maybe some of you today have had those kind of experiences. Some of you might have been the kid growing up that was, I got to be the good hero in every story. I have to be Robin Hood. I have to be King Arthur. I have to be Superman. I have to be Wonder Woman. I can't be Darth Vader. I can't be Kylo Ren. I don't know. I just can't. I got to be the good guy. And sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes you just want to be the normal kid. You just want to be that one that just fit in. Didn't have to worry about pressure. Didn't have to worry about people thinking less of you if they didn't think more of you. And so you just kind of stood in the distance. Or maybe there's some of you today that now you're starting to remember, I was that kid that did the wrong stuff all the time. I picked on the wrong kid all the time. I made fun of those kids in my class. That was me. And you might be sitting here remembering that, and I'm not meaning to bring up bad memories. What I'm trying to say is, there's a way we're all asked to be. And it comes at a cost of our discipleship with Christ. And so we have a story today that we're going to look at in Mark 8:31 through 38, that's going to show us what it means to be a true disciple of Christ, what it means to follow our Rabbi even to the cross, to his death. So Jesus has just brought his entire crew, his disciples, from Galilee up to Caesarea Philippi, this megatropolis town, this growth and growing Gentile city that was built first by Herod the Great and then added on by his son, Herod Philip. And this town is a horrible town, and we've talked about it a little bit in the past. This is the area where pan worship happened. Open orgies in front of everybody. And if you don't know what an orgy is, that's okay. It's better that you don't. Nasty stuff happened at this place. And Jesus decides to take his followers, good little Jewish boys and some girls, to an area that just even thinking about made you defiled. All to ask a question, who do people say that I am? And they give him an answer. And then he says, who do you say that I am? And Peter, our beloved, wonderful, he's everybody in this room disciple. We're all like Peter. Opens his mouth right away without any hesitation, answering for everybody there, well, you're the Messiah. And Jesus goes, blessed are you, Peter. Matter of fact, Matthew's recording says, blessed are you, Simon. Only God could have shown you that. And so I tell you that no longer will I call you Simon, but I will call you Peter, because on this rock I will build my church. It's a play on words in the Greek there. Peter's name is a Greek word that means a stone, and then he uses another word that means rock. So it's a play on words that's happening there. And so this massive high just happens. Everybody's like, whoa, this is cool. Because then he goes, the gates of hell. And I imagine he probably pointed backwards to the opening in the hole in a rock where they thought hell was the entrance of. And he said, and the gates of hell will not prevail. And then he immediately, and this is where our story takes up, begins to tell them that he has to die. And again, Peter got to be the first one to open his mouth. And actually, in our story, he doesn't even just open his mouth. He's like, hey, Jesus, sir, come over here. Come here. I got it over here. What are you talking about? How can you say that? You are not going to die. I am telling you right now, I'm rebuking you. Not going to happen. And then Jesus is probably like, oh, Peter, and brings him back over here with everybody else. And he says, I have to die. And then he rebukes Peter in front of everybody. Peter rebukes him in private. Jesus rebukes him in public. So if you think you know the story of Jesus and how Jesus is supposed to go, let me tell you, he's going to correct you. And he's not going to do it quietly. He's going to do it publicly. You're going to know from Jesus how Jesus is supposed to be. You're not going to know it from yourself. Mark's whole point here turns to this, where Jesus then tells them that if they want to be his disciples, they're going to have to do several things. They're going to have to deny themselves, they're going to have to pick up their cross, and they're going to have to give up their life. And all in order to follow Jesus. And that is Mark's point right here. And it culminates in verses 34 through 35. So if you want to turn there, we're going to start right there. This is where we're going to settle right now, in 34. Let me see here. What does it say? Jesus says, if anyone wants to follow after me, totally worship yourself. If you want to follow after me, do everything that gets you massive wealth. No, wait, it doesn't say that. What does it say? Somebody want to read it for me? It's in 34. Calling the crowd along with his disciples, he said to them, if anyone wants to follow after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. And then he says, for whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life because of me and the gospel will save it. That's some heavy hitting phrasing. And I don't know about you, but if I could have any verse not be in the Bible at all, I would choose these two. Because it's antithetical. It's against my nature. And guess what? It's against your nature. You don't want to deny yourself. You don't want to take yourself into a situation of ridicule and death. And you don't want to lose your life. I don't want to lose my life. You just heard that story. I gave up being the good playing kid because I was tired of getting made fun of. It's against our nature. We don't want to do these things. So if I had the choice, I would not put these in here, which goes a long way to support the reliability of this story. That Mark would put these words of Jesus in his gospel because it says something. This is a wholehearted refusal of what you want. And that's what he means when he first starts talking about you have to deny yourself. To deny yourself means that you're going to act selflessly, wholeheartedly against your very nature. It means you give up what you want for what Christ wants. This is a submission. You are submitting who you are to the King who sits above you. You are giving up your rights to rule yourself to somebody who can rule you so much better. And it's not about giving up everything and moving to a monastery. Don't think that. Okay, I'm not asking you to just like sell all of your property and go move in with the monastery monks down the road. I'm saying that this is everything that has to do inwardly, from your heart, your first instincts. If something happens and the very first thing you want is for yourself out of that situation, maybe you need to stop and rethink something. And you need to go, why? Why do I feel this way right now? Why do I not want to do what I think and I know what should be done? And that's because deep down inside, we want to go against the grain of grace and love. And we want to benefit ourselves. And it's not about us. None of this is about us. All of this is about Jesus and what Jesus has done for us. If any benefit comes out of it, it's the fact that we get to be with the best person in the entire world. And there's nothing better than that. To take up your cross. Imagine yourself as one of the disciples or a group in that crowd. Just imagine it. And you hear this statement. And he says to you, now remember, they're still in a pagan area too. And he says, pick up your cross and follow me. That imagery would have offended everyone there. Because there would have been no shortage of seeing people on crucifixions walking into any major city, especially in Palestine. You walk into Jerusalem, you would have seen street rows full of people dying on a cross. And all you're going in is to go celebrate the Festival of Boots. And you can't look anywhere because you look to the right, there's dying people on a cross. You look to the left, there's dying people on a cross. You look down, their shadows are cast on the ground. You look up, your peripheral still has them. So to carry your cross would have been an offense to them. But not only that, the Romans made their condemned carry their crosses to their death sites. That's another image that would have popped in their heads. Whoa, Jesus, what do you mean I have to carry this faith in such a way that people are going to ridicule me as I walk down the street? They're going to throw garbage at me? They're going to mock me? Jesus, I don't want that. Jesus, I can't handle that. And Jesus says you can, because I can, and I have. And I will do it for you. But you have to carry this weight of faith. And then he says, in verse 35, that you have to lose your life in order to gain it. This is a life living of a deadly death life. This is living a death life, a life of death. Many people today think that they're Christians for one of many reasons. Mainly because there are some that you're going to see who act like following Jesus is going to get them a blessing of money, a blessing of life, of health, fertility, the Ferrari, the mansion down the street, popularity. And that's on one end. And then all the way over on the other end, you got people that are almost exactly opposite of that, who think that being a Christian is just service. And all you got to do is feed the hungry and feed the homeless, care for the sick who don't have a doctor, take care of the ones that can't take care of themselves. And I'm here to tell you, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's technically nothing wholeheartedly wrong with asking God for help financially. None of that is wrong, but both miss the mark. Both sides misunderstand the whole purpose of Jesus. See, Jesus is saying here that you follow me because I'm going to die for you. And my death is going to give you a life that's everlasting. And even though right now it hurts in more ways than one, but afterwards you're given glory. And you won't ever hurt again. And you won't ever die again. But you have to follow me. And following me requires these things: denying yourself, taking up your cross and facing ridicule, and losing your life to seek Christ. Well, maybe sum it up this way. Jesus' point is that we need to focus more on the everlasting side. And I don't mean that we become so heavenly minded that we're no earthly good. Please don't hear that, because we still have to do things while on this earth. But the goal is not to do them on this earth, just to do them. It's to do them to show other people who Jesus is. It's to do it to share the love of Christ to them, so that they can have that everlasting life that we have. Do you see the difference between these two views and the one that I'm giving you? It's not about gaining money and popularity and things, and it's not about just serving to serve. It's about doing the will of God in people's lives so that they can have what we have. And so the psalmist in 49:7 in the contemporary English version says this: you cannot buy back your life from God or pay off God for your life. Let that one sink in for a little bit. You can't do it. It is beyond your costs and it is beyond your means. And then in the same verse, or in the same chapter of Psalms, in verse 15 in the New Living Translation, it says, "But as for me, God will redeem my life. He will snatch me from the power of the grave." There's our answer. You can't do it. You can't pay God for your life, but He can pay Himself for your life. He can pay the cost to cover your sins. Jesus is speaking here in an economic sense. This is a transaction that is taking place for you and for others. And because we can't do this on our own, as the psalmist has just told us, it clarifies that there is someone who can. There is a money lenderer out there who will cover all your costs with no principle and no interest. It's a gift freely given. So that, I'm going to quote him. I'm going to quote St. Augustine. I'm not a huge Augustine fan, but sometimes he gets things right. Not that I can judge him, but this is what Augustine says about this. What he, Jesus, commands is neither hard nor painful when he himself helps us in such a way that the very thing he requires may be accomplished. For whatever seems hard in what is enjoined, love makes easy. So let me give you a final illustration. Small time, back when I was in Masters, my first year, we were getting ready to go on this road trip somewhere to go do ministry, and two of my other best friends, Jose and Net, and I, all were like, the same time, shotgun. You guys know that? You guys play that game? I think they call them today for the females, passenger princesses. Except I wasn't a princess. Not by any means. But we were all like, shotgun, and then we started bickering and arguing. In Masters, you have a first year, a second year. Your second year is your leader. He's your mentor. He lives with you. He guides you. He leads you in devotions. He's here to help you grow spiritually. And he looked at the three of us, and I can never forget the anger on his face. And it makes me think of the anger I sometimes see in Jesus when he's confronted by some of these situations. And he said, you guys are totally missing the whole point. And he said, you understand that we have elderly ladies coming with us on this trip, and you're fighting for front seat? Maybe you should give up that front seat for an older lady or an older gentleman. Man, the room felt quiet, and we all kind of shrunk back. And then all of a sudden we were like, I'm going to take the very back seat. No, I'm going to get the back seat. No, I want the back seat. Still missing the mark, the whole point. But this is what Christ is calling for us, to give up ourselves. Because the very first thing we want is to benefit us. And following Christ, he says that's not going to happen because you can't do that. It's a false Christianity. So why are you a follower of Christ? What prompted you to become a Christian? Were you maybe like me and you grew up inside the church and that's almost about all you ever knew? Or were you like me and you had those moments and then you said, I don't think I want to do this anymore because what I have seen hurts my heart and I can't take it anymore. And there's got to be something better. And so you left. Only to find out that there's not something better. We're all broken. And that the church is just nothing more than a hospital for the broken and the weak. And so you've returned. Or maybe you're here because you found something about Jesus appealing. And you knew inside of yourself that you were hurt and you were sore and you were longing for that healing to be made whole. And that's all you wanted. I'm not here to sugarcoat it for you guys. And I hope that I never do. And I pray that God does not make me a soft preaching pastor for you. This passage is hard. In fact, it's probably the hardest passage in the whole Bible. Because, let's face it, we're essentially metaphorically being told to die. And that's hard. Because everything within us says, no, I don't want that. It's uncomfortable. And it hurts me. But unfortunately, it benefits us. Not unfortunately. Fortunately, it benefits us. Because once we do lay that down, we realize the life we have and the magnitude of it. Paul tells us that we need to search ourselves. And in the contemporary English version, in Romans 8:26-28, he says, in certain ways we're weak, but the Spirit is here to help us. For example, when we don't know what to pray for, the Spirit prays for us in ways that cannot be put into words. All of our thoughts are known to God. He can understand what is in the mind of the Spirit as the Spirit prays for God's people. We know that God is always at work for the good of everyone who loves him. They are the ones God has chosen for his purpose. And that's why Jesus in Matthew 6:33 wonderfully says to seek him and his kingdom and his righteousness above all else. And then everything else will come into place. Guys, just imagine for a minute what it would look like if we were a church as a whole that gave up ourselves, died to ourselves, and the town of Columbus knew it. I think these seats would be packed, and I think lives would be changed forever. And I'm not talking packed house just to have a packed house. I mean, everybody in here is going to heaven, and we get to eat at the master's banquet table at the end of time. And we don't cry over the lost, because there is none. Imagine what that would look like for us. How would the town think of us if they looked at us every time we walked in the streets or into Apple Market or into any other store or the bank, and they went, that is the church that loves people so much that they don't even matter to themselves. It's about the next person. And then they go, I want to join that because there's something there that I don't have that I want. So here's some thoughts for us for the week. How is what you're doing a denial of yourself, a carrying of your cross and facing ridicule, and a loss of your life for Christ? And in what ways can we start denying ourselves as a church? What are some things that we as a church need to just put down and never touch again? What are some ways we carry out and carry our crosses? And how are we living a life of death for Christ? Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, I thank you this morning for your word. I thank you that we can't do it ourselves, but you can. And that's what's important, that you've done it and we receive those benefits. And that out of that, we get to share that with everybody. And so I ask you, Lord, to just open us up for that, Lord. Help us to go this week sharing a life of death with those around us. In the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.